Welcome back to another show of Fite Sports Uncovered. I'm your host, Mark Chubert, and we're going to dial it back just a little bit from our normal sort of punch you in the face kind of stuff. So no more punchy kicky today, but maybe a little bit of it because we're going to talk about it in the gaming community. As you know, we've done a couple of shows like that, and we're here again at our home away from home, the Nexus Hub, especially when it comes to us talking about the gaming community. Right here in Randburg, Johannesburg, at the Nexus Hub. Joining me today is a founder, an owner, CEO of a young multi-gaming organization, Fabio Viveiros. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming and spending it with us here at Fite Sports Uncovered.
How's it, Mark? Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here, and it's going to be a good show.
So first of all, let's talk about Illusion Gaming. How did that all come about? Because you've had your experience in putting together a similar organization like this a couple of years ago. That then you had other plans, and now Illusion Gaming is happening. It's alive, it's vibrant, but where did it all start for you?
It actually started last year in the 2020 pandemic. I was stuck at home not working, and I decided that I was kind of missing esports. I was creating my own gaming content at home, but creating your own content and managing a whole team of people where you managing social media, getting people to upload content, you editing content, it's just a different feeling. And I just missed that from doing it beforehand. I decided I wanted to start a new team, and from there Illusion was born. I wasn't too sure on the name. I had a few ones floating around, but Illusion just sat out with me, and it's the one that I chose. I'm happy I went with it, and now that 7-8 months later, the team's growing really well.
So that experience back in 2017, that's obviously put you in good stead to obviously start managing this new entity that you've just brought together. No?
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen those changes already in this team. What I would like to think are the right changes that need to be made. The previous team was really good. We were ranked in the top of every game we competed in. Everybody a part of the team was amazing. My business partner was amazing. And I decided to leave for other reasons, but now I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to be doing it again a different way.
Talking about that different way, if I look at your stated intent for Illusion Gaming, you're talking about focusing on creating a platform to allow African creatives to showcase their skills, not just in the gaming space, but also in the creativity space. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, so just a background on Illusion. We started off as a fighting game organization competing in Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Tekken, where we grew our name with the top fighters in South Africa and Africa in general. And from there, I decided that although this is good and it's on a right path, I wanted to do more and focus more on creativity than competitiveness. With that, we decided to branch out into acquiring some Twitch streamers and YouTube content creators to join the team and create content under the banner. And alongside that, we got an amazing body artist called Little Amazon. She was supposed to be here. Unfortunately, she won't be. But she's an amazing body artist. She does it live on her Twitch stream. She paints her body for like 3 hours, and you can tune in. People come and watch. People chat with her while she's doing it. It's super fun. It's amazing. I love it. And I'm super happy to have her part of the team. It takes the organization a different direction completely as a whole.
When you talk about that, I mean, people are probably looking at this now going, body artist, a body painter as part of an NGO, how does that all fit? But we all understand that cosplay has become such a massive component of what's happening in the gaming community. Not so much in South Africa as much as it is global phenomenon.
Yes, and I mean, it does tie in depending on the kind of content you create, I guess. So although she is a body painter, Little Amazon is also a gamer, and she likes to also stream on Twitch horror games. So besides for that, she also is in touch with the gaming community. So on her body paints, although she does some very talented stuff, she'll also have streams where, like recently, she did a body paint of like a DC character called Green Lantern. She's done one of, it's escaped my mind right now, really good gaming characters that you would never think somebody can paint the character's armor on their skin, and then 3 hours afterwards you're like, okay, that was amazing, look how realistic it looks. So yeah, she does tie the body painting into the gaming to kind of bring the two communities together as well.
So if I look at the team at the moment, like we said, it's a young team. Everything was put together, sort of beginning part of this year. You've got sort of a nice balance, 4 creatives in the team, 4 competitive gamers in the team that focus purely on gaming under the MGO banner. In terms of the growth of that team, is that the kind of current state of where you want to keep it, or is it still to grow massively over the next year or two?
So this is something that I've actually thought about. There's always 2 ways that you can go about things. You can always scale large and run with that way, or you can keep it tiny and just work on what you have. I'm still trying to decide on which way I want to do it, but I'm leaning more towards just keeping it small and trying to grow the team that we have to create opportunities for them, because I feel if you try and create opportunities for more, like many people, you don't really get much done. Where if you create opportunities for a smaller group, in turn, it can create opportunities in the future for more people. I can get a lot more done with a team of 10 than I could with a team of 30, because I'm controlling a smaller group of people, I'm editing less content, I'm posting less in the day, I'm not constantly having to like be on top of things, where if I was managing 30 people, it would be a lot more work and I'd have to do things a lot differently to how I'm doing it now. I'm trying to keep it a bit small and like intimate, if I can use that word.
Focused.
Yes, focused is a better word to use, just to try and help the people that are part of the organization now and try and create a better future for African gamers coming after us.
Talking about that better future, looking at some of the problems that you are looking specifically to solve through Illusion. You speak about African content creation, you talk about exposure to content and branding, and then obviously the big one, funding. I mean, funding is, that F word is really the bomb that probably makes or breaks gaming in this country, because there's not a lot of funding, not only in South Africa, but as I understand it, on the African continent. The funding is in Europe, it's in the States, it's out of the Far East, but Africa per se lacks in that big F word in a big time.
Yes, definitely. And I'm probably the person who's felt this the hardest. Although the previous organization, we did have a few sponsors, I pretty much invested my personal money into everything else that they didn't, and it was a lot of money for a 21-year-old to be putting into gaming. My parents thought I was crazy, and that's the thing, if you are trying to build something, it's a sacrifice you have to make because there is no external funding. Slowly we're starting to see the change. Bravado Gaming recently opening their HQ, recently acquiring brand new teams, and pretty much solidifying their spot as one of the best gaming brands in Africa. I think slowly it's going to change, but right now there is very little to no funding coming from the outside. Yeah.
Prospects for the future? I mean, I suppose it's such a loaded question because prospects, what do we want to talk about? But specifically in the NGO space, we see a lot of news reports at the moment, the big international NGOs starting to step out of the gaming, let's call it the gaming arena, and fund and back different ventures in areas that gamers didn't think that they might get involved with. What's your take on the NGO and the status of NGOs, both internationally and here in South Africa?
That's a good question. I don't think an MGO is the correct term anymore. If you're an organization, you should definitely not be focusing purely on gaming. That is a very 2016 way of thinking of things, and expanding your horizons to content creation, where some people will be like, oh, that's still gaming, but it's not purely just, oh, our team is competing this weekend, oh, this was our team's score for the weekend, oh, our team's competing this weekend, here's some clips of our previous match. Where if you're creating content and you're actively trying to get viewers to look at you, it's a lot more efficient than just posting twice a week saying, oh, we're playing this weekend, okay, this was the score, okay, this guy got 5 kills on the match, whatever the statistics are. Where if you're not only focusing on that and now you're creating gaming content and you're supporting artists and you got musicians, you're broadening your horizons and you're bringing more attention, which, like you say, the fighting game community and the FGC have a lot of audience in common. It's like that with many things. Music and gaming has a lot of common audience. Movies and gaming have a lot of common audience. Gaming is pop culture, and the sooner people realize that, I think the sooner it will grow in South Africa, but that's pretty much what we're waiting for. Once people start to realize that you have to get involved in more than just gaming, I think we'll start to see things grow a lot more. A good example is an organization called Nibble Esports, which they actually have artists, they have musicians, they have editors, they have typewriters, they have any kind of creative avenue they have in their team, which I think is a great way to go, because the gaming community is not widely known outside of the gaming community. So now what Nibble is doing is they bringing fans of music and introducing them to gaming. They bringing fans of game reviews and introducing them into competitive gaming. So I feel that that's one thing I definitely want to do with Illusion as well, is focus more on connecting the communities than just trying to focus on, okay, what are we going to do inside of the gaming community? Because the gaming community should be a lot bigger than what it is.
Great point. But final question for you, and I think this is probably going to be a bit of a cracker, is you've got a gaming setup. You've got an organization. Let's walk away from the NGO, like you say. You've got an organization set up, mixture of creatives and competitive gamers, content creators, body painters, cosplayers, etc. What is the next step for any organization like yourself, maybe more established, less established, to take it to the level where the individuals in your organization become true professionals at what they're doing, no longer having to hold down a day job, having to literally wake up in the morning and focus purely on what it is their passion and what they're focusing on doing in that community for that day? What's got to be done?
It's a bit difficult locally, I'll have to say that, as someone who's been privileged enough to be able to actually try and do it. If you can and you have the chance to do it, definitely try, because if it's something that you're interested in and you love esports, it's definitely fulfilling. In terms of how they can do it, I would say just keep going. I mean, when I had my previous organization, there were times when I didn't know what I was doing. I thought to myself, next month, are we going to even be doing this anymore? Are we still going to have these good teams want to be a part of us? But you just have to keep going, keep doing what you know needs to be done. Create content, make sure your teams are practicing enough and putting in the work that actually matters. One thing that I realized is just jumping onto the game and playing ranked is not practice. You got to actively watch the matches you played before. Record your matches. If you're going to go fight now, me and you are fighting each other in Street Fighter, I'll record that. Afterwards, if I won, I'll go watch what I did right and how I can do it again, what I did wrong and what I can improve on. As an organization owner, it's pretty much the exact same thing. You got to look at what content's doing well, what teams are performing well, and put more energy into those teams. Not everybody can have your energy. If you have the best Counter-Strike team in South Africa and you have a top 10 Mortal Kombat fighter, you can't give those two people the same energy. So I'd say focus your energy maybe on what gives you the most opportunity and never stop trying. Just keep creating content, keep competing, keep making sure everybody's doing their thing.
Well, there you have it. Such wise words from such a young gentleman who's literally starting it all over again. Brand new gaming organization that's not just going to be focusing on gaming, as you've heard, diversifying into creative roles, creative content for the African market. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to delve a little bit more into some more of the individuals that make up Illusion Gaming. Don't go away.
Here we go! Recently search at his own. The netted guns and examining. No touch. Oh, Holly Holm. Oh! Just like that! Look at the ring! The big dog! Spear!
Welcome back to Fight Sports Uncovered. I'm your host, Mark Joubert, and if you missed the first part of the show, we're breaking down a little bit about this sort of new kid on the block, Illusion Gaming, talking to the founder, Fabio Viveiros, and he was telling us about what the vision is, where he'd like to take the organization, and part and parcel of that vision is my next guest, Vince Makuba, otherwise known as Vin Petroleum. Vince, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on the show. And you've been in the FGC, in the gaming, the fighting game community now for 10 years now?
Yeah.
10 years? What excited you about the fighting game community, other than obviously punching someone else in the face and not getting hurt yourself?
First of all, thanks for having me. I've been a gamer for a long time. I've just started off just as a gaming, playing, Mario, the usual games that we play. And then, I also got introduced to Street Fighter. That was the first game I played, and I'm still playing it even today.
Favorite character?
Right now it's Rashid, because he's a new character on Street Fighter 5. He got introduced in Street Fighter 5, but the usual is your Ryu, Ken, Guile, the very first original cast. So that's how I really got into the fighting game. I started playing with the current champion, which is Billy, where we started playing together. He's a cousin of mine. We started playing together, and then we sort of grew together in the scene, and we're still playing even today.
So 10 years ago, you decided to get into the fighting game scene, and it's only, as I understand, the last 2-3 years where you've really decided to focus in let's call it a semi-pro sort of fashion, because it's very difficult for most gamers in this country to be full-on pros.
Yeah, so that's what I like to call it, semi-pro, because it's not something that I do full-time, but it's something that I do for most of my time as well. I do dedicate a good 2 to 3 hours a day, sometimes even 5 to 6 hours on the weekends, just playing the fighting games, playing the regular fighting game, Street Fighter. So that's why I'm saying it's semi-pro. Also the fact that we are now sort of getting to interact with other pros from other regions and other countries as well. So that's why I'm saying it's semi-pro as well. Yeah.
So tell me, what does a day in the life look like for Vince when it comes to those, let's call it 2 to 5 hours, 2 to 6 hours that you actually practice? Are you practicing your offensive skills? Are you practicing your defensive skills? Looking at what you've done right, looking at what you can improve on. How does Vince sort of put together his fighting game day on any given day?
Okay, well, first and foremost is I have a full-time job, so once that's done,
get that out of the way. Yes.
Get that out of the way. Then what I do is, I firstly go into training mode, get my character. I like to train firstly just basic combos, things that you have to get onto the habit of, just so you're good at the game. So we call them bread and butter combos. So those are the simple combos that you can do while, even if someone wakes you up in your sleep, you'd be able to do those combos. So those are just so that you get sort of warming up as well. And then once you've got that done, luckily we have a community. Shout outs to WhatsApp group that we have, SFV Motivations and Beating, and also our Discord, SAFGC. That's the community that we have, and also the people, my teammates in Illusion Gaming as well. So you sort of then call them up, send a WhatsApp message, guys, is there anyone who wants to play some games? And then from there, we just have casual matches. That then helps in terms of, getting used to certain things, getting used to a certain character that maybe you're struggling with, or maybe coming up with strategies on how you can face a certain opponent. Or maybe you might find that, in a tournament that you played, you fought someone who used a character that maybe someone in our community uses that character, and then you just call him and say, can we play maybe a couple of games, maybe first to 10 games, so that you get used to, you get a feel of the character and see what strategies you can come up with against that character. So a day is basically just practicing for maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and then most of the time is just playing other people as well. And then after that, you go back into training based on the data that you got while you were playing the other guys, yeah.
So talking to yet another one of the Illusion Gaming team, I'm joined now by Sikwele Ramaube. He's also one of those semi-pro gamers, as most gamers in this country are. Still has to hold down a day job, but passionately involved in the FGC. Street Fighter is his game of choice. Sikwele, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for your time.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure to get to learn and get to know a little bit more about one more member of the FGC. So let's talk about your journey into gaming.
Yes.
How did it start for you? What was the attraction when it came to most kids, yes, probably an arcade or something like that, but what was your attraction?
Yeah, when I was younger, I didn't know much about gaming. So I made a couple of friends, and one day after a few months, they told me, do you play Street Fighter? Do you play those kind of games? Right? I didn't understand what they were saying initially. What is that, all of that? Because initially I came from a very rural area, never knew that stuff existed before. Then they took me one day and I got hooked. There was a game shop where in our neighborhood, I don't think they still exist these days. There was a game shop. We actually went there and I saw all these games. I saw people on other arcades doing whatever, some of them mashing. I wanted to try that out. So they put a coin in for me and I was hooked. I was hooked.
So that's your introduction?
That was my introduction.
Favorite character then, and is it still your favorite character now?
So when I started playing, the first game I actually played was actually called Virtua Fighter.
Most of us played that many years ago.
Yeah, many years ago. So I like the look of Akira, and was that other guy with the ninja thing with the whole, what is his name again? I forgot him, but there was a guy who had like a covered to his face. He just was showing that. I like those two characters. Those were the first two characters I played around with. Didn't know what I was doing half the time, but hey, and I didn't even know they had super jumps and stuff, and I only discovered that years after I played the game. Years after. So that was my first game, but today, you probably will never hear me talking about Virtua Fighter in any sentence besides now.
Okay. And your favorite character now in terms of Street Fighter?
My favorite character in Street Fighter 5 specifically is Zangief. So yeah, the big heavy grappler.
What attracted you to him?
What attracted me to Zangief is that he doesn't have what you call neutral skipping tools. He can't go from being in neutral, like we're fighting in neutral, and just jump into the other side. So I felt like it is the best way for me to learn the game, because he will actually force me to actually have to learn how to fight without having any tools that literally just allow me to skip neutral or do something that's unblockable or ambiguous. So I think that's why I like him the most. He forces you to learn how to play the game, how to defend, how to attack without having any of the outlavish, overpowered tools that the other characters have.
So we've spoken to two gamers, guys that, as you heard, semi-pro gamers that really are fascinated by the FGC, integral in the FGC community. But as you'll know from the very first segment, and what Fabio was telling us, is that Illusion Gaming is not just about having gamers as part and parcel of the team. Joining me now is Francois Botha. He would prefer not to be known as Francois Botha. Rusty Pie Lover is his preferred name, and we're going to unpack that. But firstly, Rusty, Francois, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Rusty Pie Lover.
Yeah.
Got to find out where that all came from.
So it's actually interesting. It was around 2013. Was a nice hot summer's day, and my sister and I went to go do some shopping, and I was watching, I think it was Markiplier, doing prop hunt, and I was saying, I think I can do what they can do, but I needed a nickname to really stand out, because in content you kind of got to try and stand out. So everyone called me Rusty at that point because of the ginger hair, the ginger beard.
I would never have thought.
And at first I hated it, but I said, maybe I can turn this into something. And coincidentally, I was eating pepper steak pie. So I was like, Rusty the Pie Lover. But I was like, no. The is just a little bit too mellow. So I combined the whole thing. And ever since then, it's gone through a couple of changes. Had to make sure we put some capitals in specific places. I'm not going to say where, but I think we can leave that to the imagination for people. But since then, it's stayed the same for 8 years now.
So Rusty is there obviously for as we can clearly see, but Ginger Streamer is another nickname that you go by. Professional high-pitched screamer. What's that all about?
So I don't like horror games. I think a lot of people can verify, like Outlast, those kind of things. We don't like horror games, and I hate getting jump scared. So the professional high-pitched screamer comes from 8 years of every now and then having to do a horror game, and then something jumping in my face, and then letting out a very high-pitched scream. And it takes a long time to perfect that type of screaming. So Ginger Streamer with the ginger, professional high-pitched screamer, it is not something that is said lightly. It is actually a profession.
Okay. To
be able to scream at that type of pitch that's still entertaining and still can give other people jump scares while I'm afraid about what happens to me.
Something that you clearly work at still to this day.
Very much.
Let's talk about your journey. So unlike the two previous gentlemen we spoke to, Vincent Sequela, you don't play games per se. You are more a content creator, you're more a streamer, but obviously being part of the Illusion Gaming setup, it requires you to have a fundamental understanding of what they do, because it's about editing and putting it all together and getting it out there. How did that journey start with you? Obviously you were eating a pie at the time and said you could do that stuff, but what attracted you to this space, this industry?
It's actually from a very young age that I was into gaming. From 6 years old, my mother and father pulled out a little NES console at that time. They stuck a cartridge in and they said, okay, here you go. This is your first experience. And I actually learned how to speedrun Mario at that point, Super Mario Brothers. That was fun. And ever since then, I've only had a passion for gaming and watching YouTube. Back then, we grew up as a poor family, so we really couldn't afford things. We worked to the point where we built a computer, where I provided internet. And I said, you know what? I also want to create content. I also want to see what this journey is all about, what it takes to be a creator. And since then, I've honed skills such as Photoshop to create thumbnails, attractive thumbnails, learned how to edit from 2013 onwards and just refined my type of humor, my type of editing that I wanted to put forward to people. And being in gaming as long as I have, I know most of the games. I know these guys that I'm proud to be part of with Illusion. I've also played fighting games. I've also seen what it takes to do what they do. I've seen esports. I've seen it all. You don't get to say, you've been doing this 8 years and say you've seen it all without having seen it all. And it's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to say that even after 8 years of doing this, every new experience is a learning experience for me.
So in terms of that experience and what you've seen, having seen it all, difficult to understand because there's just so much out there. Content creation, it's very clear from what I've seen, it's very clear that from what you've seen that not everybody can just create content. There requires a little bit of thought, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of insight into what you're trying to achieve. But what are some of the fundamental lessons that you've learned as a content creator over these last years?
I think one of the most fundamental things of content that people misconstrue is it's a quick way of making money. And it's not. It isn't. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes passion behind it. Anybody can go in front of a screen, make a video or do a live stream. Anybody can do that. But do you have the passion to continue doing it? Or is it just something that you just say, okay, well, I gave it a shot. It's not what I want to do. There's a difference between being a streamer and a content creator versus an entertainer. Do you want to be the entertainer? Do you want to be a content creator? You have to define who you are as a content creator. You have to define what you want to do. And a lot of people fall out of content just because they don't find the expectation that they thought didn't match what they were putting out. And that's a huge part of content, that you have to be able to put out what you want to receive. And one of the fundamentals I would honestly say to any new content creator that wants to come in, because it is a very saturated field. It really is a very saturated field. You need to show people who you are as a person. And that doesn't have to be someone outspoken and bubbly and screaming the entire time. You can be one of the most chill people on earth. And as long as people see the genuineness that you are putting forward, that is one of the biggest fundamentals, is to be yourself when you are doing content.
So it's about creating a connection.
Yes.
Wow, what an introduction to Illusion Gaming I've had today. Just heard so much strategy, insight coming from the few team members that we've had an opportunity to talk to. So for the viewers out there, reach out to them. They're everywhere. Illusion Gaming, find them online, follow some of the stuff that they're talking about. Put them to the test. Ask, engage with them. You've heard from these youngsters that are really, really looking to build this community, to build gaming, build the FGC, and most importantly, get the right content out there. Reach out, speak to them, and if you want to find out more, I'm sure so much more available that you can find out about the Illusion Gaming team online. Until next time, defend yourselves at all times. We're out.